America, planet Earth, what's good? This is your boy Codell, and welcome back to another episode of the Father's Gospel Podcast. Today, we have another great episode for you guys. I'm going to be interviewing a gentleman named Randall. Randall, how you doing, brother?
Good man, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to have you on the show. I mean, I think we've been talking for at least a year now, if not a little longer. So it's been a while. But you got a interesting backstory, man, and I'm excited to have you on here to share your story with the rest of the world. So why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and let the people kind of give them a brief overview of what's going on with you right now.
All right, good afternoon, America. My name is Randy Collier from New Hampshire, and I'm going through the custody battle like everyone else has. Unfortunately for me, I've run into the other half that refuses to play nice, and it's been 12 years for a protective order. And we I did every kind of appeal possible, two apparent appeals, a domestic violence, writ of centuri that was denied, two district court cases that were denied, a court of appeals case that was denied. Um, as a veteran, I lost custody over 5 pages of domestic violence. The judge said that there was no threats or violence in it. And somehow I got 12 years of protective order. So the last order that came out in April of last year, the judge said that. So this is the thing. This is kind of crazy to me. Is the judge said that there was how they do things is it's a preponderance of the evidence and rules of evidence don't apply. Well, if you take those two objective words by their definition, a preponderance is greater than 50% or 51%, and if rules of evidence don't apply, that means the information is unreliable. So how can it be the preponderance if rules of evidence don't apply? It can't be reliable and unreliable at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
that's bizarre.
yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So then he said that evidence didn't apply to the protective orders. So he denied my motion to vacate the protective orders. So what are they doing using criminal statutes in civil court without evidence? Well,
Right.
apparently that's how they steal kids and garnish us for their retirement funds. And I'm just kind of done playing the game now. It's been 12 years, and I got 6 hours with my son in the last 12. So this is kind of like the last straw. I'm trying to do the habeas corpus right now, and to pretty much tell the state of New Hampshire to either produce a victim or give me my kid.
Yeah.
And we're gonna see how that goes. But right now I got 16 judges that were granted immunity against 5 pages of case law that nobody gets immunity. So obviously they love to abuse kids for cash, and unfortunately my kid's in the middle, and I'm not gonna stop until, well, you know.
Right. So you hope, yeah, can hopefully make it over this ridiculous hump and yeah, get your kid back. Man, 6 hours in 12 years is just insane. And I mean, it doesn't help with what I'm about to say, but I give you mad credit, man, because the way you've stuck with the fight and you're continuing to push forward. I mean, a lot of dads just wouldn't be able to do that. And I mean, I know I'm about to be 7 years in now in my custody case. And as I'm sure, I mean, obviously you already know this, it's exhausting. I mean, it mentally breaks you down spiritually, emotionally, and then you're trying to maintain living and all that stuff. So yeah, okay, now okay, your case, okay, so New Hampshire, I might be sounding like an idiot with the questions I'm about to ask, so forgive me and just correct me. But
That's all right, man.
yeah, so your case is in New Hampshire because for some reason I've been thinking it's in Pennsylvania, but then you have something going in Massachusetts with the courts as well, don't you?
Yeah, so the Massachusetts was the Court of Appeals for the federal district because it's in the First Circuit.
Okay.
So I went there in June, and then they dismissed it in the, last month, the 30th of December. I was given arrest warrants here in New Hampshire and in North Carolina where they live, for not paying lawyers' fees, and I paid the $3,000 arrest warrant in New Hampshire, but the arrest warrant is still active in North Carolina. So when I went to the state police a few months ago to kind of give them a kind of rundown and because ultimately being in EMS, working with the police for 20 years, it's not like they're my enemy, right? So
Right.
I want them on my side. So I went to the state police barracks, and the guy was an absolute idiot. And I kind of told him where to go, and he showed up at my house a half hour later with my arrest warrant on his MBT, which is the state police on all ambulance services, their own computer system for where they get their information, blah blah blah. So he was sitting in my driveway, and he was like, "Is that you?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's my arrest warrant from North Carolina. That's me." So anyway, short story long, he spent 45 minutes and reviewed the evidence, and then drove away, not arresting me. So
Mm.
obviously, he knows that he doesn't have jurisdiction to act on the arrest warrants. So that's a good thing. So that just proves in itself that
It's all, yeah. So specifically, what are these supposed arrest warrants for? What are they trying to arrest you for?
for not paying lawyers' fees, which is against
Oh,
debtors' prison.
yeah. Right, right, right. Okay. And so they
If you
tried
don't,
doing this in North Carolina and what was the other state? Massachusetts, you said?
no, New Hampshire, where I live.
New Hampshire. Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Please continue on.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense if the Constitution and the Fourth Amendment says probable cause can't come from civil matters. So, why are these judges putting arrest warrants against debtors' prison? And then furthermore, I forget if it's like the federal rules of civil procedure or whatever the rules are, but if you're pro se litigant
Yeah.
and you don't have an attorney, you can't get charged attorney's fees because it has to be the same matching of what you have.
Okay. Yeah.
So, if you're not paying lawyers' fees, and I mean, obviously, without signing a contract, you can't really be responsible for somebody else's fees anyway. But that's just another peonage that they throw on us.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so now what's is your son in your state or what state is your son in?
He's with a mom in North Carolina.
He's with the mom in North Carolina. So that would be part of the reason for for their warrant also being issued in North Carolina, obviously. Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And so is the protection order now, is it in place for, I'm assuming it's in place for the mom, I'm guessing. And then is it also in place for your son as well?
It is.
It is. Okay. Okay.
So I got 1 year the first year, and then I got an extension, and then I got a 5 year extension. And that first 5 year extension I got for my cousin sending him a Christmas gift for Christmas.
Wow.
So the judge gave me 5 years protective order for sending him a Christmas gift.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So I mean, the
please. No, please continue on.
oh, um, the everything was fraud as soon as he contradicted my first psych eval,
Yeah.
and then when he did that, and then he denied access to her records after she gave blatant testimony that was unbelievable, and then he denied access to her psych records. Um,
And
and then
this
I
was the
went,
judge.
yeah, and then I
Okay.
went and got a second psych eval, and he contradicted that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first three reasons he gave for supervised visits, um, one was so my son doesn't lose memory of his good relationship with his father. Two, his sincere misguided beliefs that his rights were violated. The court concludes that supervised vision is necessary. The third one was in case something might happen in a supervised center, someone's there to stop it.
Right. Yeah.
So why would I get 6 years of supervised visits for his good memory? And then I
Yeah,
got
that's
5 years.
that totally hurt. I mean, this whole supervised visit thing, I'm going through it. I've been going through it. I mean, especially as the kid gets older and older and they just continue to reinforce these supervised visits. Obviously, the kid's wondering what the heck is going on, and it's actually hurting the relationship and not helping the relationship. I mean,
Right.
yeah, it's a whole mess, but please continue on.
Um, so when I do get to see him, I mean, obviously he told me I think 2 years ago, the last time I talked to him, that he never wanted to do these phone calls again and hung up the phone.
Right.
So obviously he's alienated by her, and the fact that she testified, 8 months ago that she's in fear for her life, 12 years later, when there was no threats or violence and evidence didn't apply. Renaud versus Renaud was a 98 case in Vermont. It was used in the Miller versus Todd case that New Hampshire Supreme Court ruled in Todd's favor, which I mirrored on my Centauri. And then they denied my Centauri. It was mirrored on top of the Todd case. Anyway, the Renaud versus Renaud case is fraudulent testimony and overturns custody. So then when I went to the district court and I did the Bear case, which says that you can't dismiss on Rooker Feldman, and they did it twice, that you have to dismiss on a claim by claim. It was like the Ninth or Sixth Circuit said in the Bear case that a claim by claim approach is the right approach, and you can't do a blanket dismissal on Rooker. Well, they did it.
Gotcha.
They did it twice, and then when I went to the Court of Appeals, they dismissed it on Rooker. So these guys are they're covering up their pedophilia and child abuse, and I'm
Yeah.
done, basically.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. So what is their what are the reasons they're giving you for this endless extension of this no contact order?
So in the very beginning, she offered like a paper that said no contact before she plans a parenting plan or something like that, which violates the shared parenting law anyway.
Okay.
Then I immediately contacted her after and every day, and to this day, every day, and she still won't contact me. So every time that she ever wants to do like a extension on a protective order, she always gets me for violating the protective order, for continually to communicate and try to communicate with her, which I'll never stop because you know if I threw a broken fingernail at her when I was whatever, then I would never fight. The fact that the morning that she wanted to file a domestic violence, it was snowing out, and I went out and shoveled off her car and warmed it up for her so she could get in a nice warm car to go to the police station to file domestic violence. Like, who does that, right?
Right. So are
And
you still continuing to try to stay in contact with her, or what's going on with that? Because maybe I heard you incorrectly, but I thought you said just a moment ago you are still in contact with her.
well, listen, I'm not going to stop trying, and I've probably tried to contact her about 10,000 times since the protective order has been in place.
Okay.
But because it's a legislative statute protective order, it's not judicial, and there was no crime, so of course I'm going to continue to try and contact her, but she doesn't answer her phone and she doesn't respond to the emails. But I CC all of her lawyers, sometimes the state police, the sheriffs, the Keene police, everybody, county commissioners, just so everybody understands that I'm not going to stop, and I'm going to expose everybody.
Yeah.
And so every time that they get me on the extension of protective order, it's usually always, well, you contacted her against the protective order and she's in fear for her life, blah, blah, blah. So I keep getting extensions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when he first ordered supervised visits, I have 3 different businesses that did offer it, and
Okay.
they all couldn't do it because you had to live in their jurisdiction or their county first, and everybody in their county had to get their time in before people in outside counties, blah blah blah. So I have letters that said that supervised visitation wasn't always available, and
Yeah.
then he allowed them to move to North Carolina. which I don't know, like, why would you do that? And then the judge said I was supposed to continue with the 6 years of supervised visits for 2 hours once a month at my full expense in North Carolina.
For
Like,
6 years. That's wow.
yeah.
That's a long time. Okay.
So that's how that ended up. And I'm like, wait, if it's a civil court and there's no evidence and there's no threats and there's no violence, why are you sanctioning me?
Yeah.
Because if there was a crime, you would have probably referred me to a criminal court.
Right. Right. I mean, and I'm dude, I'm trying to figure this out more and more. So when you contact her, like what are you reaching out to her about? What are you trying to communicate to her?
Everything that she's doing is wrong because right now I have 16 judges that were granted immunity for using criminal statutes in family court without evidence.
Okay.
So it's never been anything bad. Like, I'm not calling her names. I'm not obviously not threatening her. I've never wanted to harm her in the first place.
Yeah.
But if she's a school teacher, like, she understands communication apparently to obviously elementary kids, but I'm still trying to communicate and be like, dude, like, why are you doing this? Like, I'm not going to stop.
So are you sharing these that like these communications that you're having with her? Are you sharing the because it sounded like earlier saying you're pretty much sharing these communications with the DA or the attorneys or all of the above. So they is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
So
Yeah,
that way
man.
they understand that I'm not going to stop because the judge testified that rules of evidence didn't apply to criminal statutes in civil court. So I'm not going to stop. And everybody's going to understand that.
Right. And from the way you're looking at things, it's like they would have if they actually had something to arrest you on, but they know that they don't have a any crime, they're basically trying to intimidate you, but at the same time, they kind of are limited to what they can do. I mean, they're going to try to do stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. And right now I'm protected under RICO because I exposed that too. So now you got 16 judges that are all together. So that's RICO. So I'm a whistleblower. So I'm protected. And what I
Okay.
keep telling them, and obviously, like, you understand that I keep telling them, I'm like, listen, please refer me to a proper Article 3 constitutional court for violating an unconstitutional statute.
And they don't, and they, yeah, and they're not doing
Nope,
it. How long
nope,
have you been requesting that?
years,
Years. Wow. Okay.
years.
Okay. Yeah.
But we understand that these sheriffs understand that the circuit courts, they probably don't understand that the circuit courts were abolished in 1911 by the 61st Congress, and now we're at the 119th Congress, and they're still allowing them to happen. So right now in New Hampshire, they have we're trying to work on a House bill to abolish the family court and make it back into the Superior Court, basically, but as a referee only. So I'm
Okay.
supposed to testify on that too soon. But there's billions and billions of dollars, so you know,
Right. It's David versus Goliath. I mean, yeah.
yeah.
Right. Right. So I mean, how okay, as far as New Hampshire goes, I mean, how do you feel? I mean, obviously, dude, you've been in this endless uphill battle, and it's just constantly getting shit thrown at you. I mean, do you feel like there is headways being made? Do you feel like there is some rumbling starting to take place? And can you see a light at the end of the tunnel, or does it just all seem pretty hopeless?
Oh, yeah. My dad was saying something. You know, I think we're making great headway, and we're really exposing stuff, and the fact that they're already trying to do bills in family court to make rules of evidence happen, which doesn't make any sense because if it's a circuit court, it doesn't matter. It's still unconstitutional. So what does it matter with rules of evidence? But now that we've exposed 16 judges, and now I did my habeas, and obviously now they have to find another judge that's not on the list, and now we have testimony that evidence doesn't apply to criminal statutes. So we'll figure out what this habeas is. But if they can't produce a victim, I mean, I've never heard of anybody denying a habeas. I don't know. but we're trying to force their hands, and unfortunately, the sheriffs aren't there for us, and they're going to do whatever the judge says.
Right.
And even though that, listen, I went to my sheriff. My sheriff went to school with my whole family, so he knows the family quite well.
Okay.
He read the orders when I went to his office and showed him everything, and he said that he didn't believe in my interpretations of the orders. That's weird.
Yeah.
Why would you say that? Like, would your interpretation be that evidence did apply to the criminal statutes in civil court? Like, what? Like, why would the badge say that?
Well, I mean, I don't want to get too off track, but I mean, I just feel like, the whole COVID ordeal, I feel like it was very frustrating, but one of the biggest blessings that came out of COVID is it really exposed society as a whole on who are just yes people and are going to go along with whatever they're told, and who are people that are willing to, kind of take on the system. So yeah, I'm not surprised about that, man. I mean, to me, it's shocking because with the family courts, I know for a fact that the cops, they know how bad the family courts are. So why aren't they helping do something about it? And it's very frustrating. But yeah, so I mean, do you have any big court dates coming up soon, or what's going on with all that?
Well, so I'm still in the kind of the time frame to do a writ of certiorari to U.S. Supreme Court. Basically, it's not an appeal, but you have to basically ask them to look it over. And when they take 1% of the cases, which is 125 out of 5,000, I'm still within the 90-day window to do that. But I gotta wait to see what New Hampshire on the writ of habeas, because they said it's a quick process in days. So she said that she was gonna send me a letter to my address this week. So I'm sure I'll probably get something like Tuesday. But I mean, if we're guaranteed the right to be heard, and it's an Article 3 district court, and they've already denied 2 of my cases. Like I said, I want a hearing, basically. And like was it not Justice Gorsuch, but the other guy said that he subpoenaed 37 state attorneys and to the U.S. Supreme Court to see if the Constitution actually exists. So hopefully I'll have a hearing this week on the habeas. And like I said, I don't know. I've never done a habeas, but I've never read anything that they've been denied.
So
Because
this hearing, would this give you the opportunity to go in and present your argument then, and for your reasons for the habeas, or?
from my interpretation of the habeas is it's a demand on the state to produce a corpse,
Okay.
right?
Gotcha.
So either they have to produce a body or a crime, or they have to give me my kid back because
Yeah.
the state took him, and I was never charged with a crime.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy because I mean, this. I mean, how many dads are going, I mean, we all, yeah, obviously our stories have their variations, and extremes and all that stuff. But I mean,
Yeah.
overall, it's the same story over and over. And this is just, unfortunately, your story is far too common. Yeah, man, it's crazy. So let me ask you this: as far as like with your son, I mean, uh, how, man, do you have any? Because you're obviously in a really sticky situation. So, I mean, have you thought, like, long term wise, what you are going to try to do to reestablish that relationship and how you want to go about approaching it? Because obviously that's, man, I feel for you because you've been in it longer than I have, but it's tough. Have you thought about that at all, on how you're going to deal with that and what you're going to do?
I got no comment, man. I don't know. Like, I've never been here before, and the only thing I'm gonna do is show him the truth
Yeah,
and then let him decide. Be
right.
like, listen, how did your mom get 12 years of fear for your life if there was no threats or violence? And why is she 12 years later still saying that she's in fear for her life?
Right. Yeah.
And I can show him that the first 6 years I got for his good memory, and then 5 years for a Christmas gift. So I got plenty of stories where I'd send Christmas gifts and birthday gifts, and they would get returned to Amazon, returned to sender, they give them away, all kinds
Yeah.
of stuff.
Right.
So it just it's 100%, you know, um, slavery.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
And I think that's because I'm kind of doing the same thing. I mean, in essence, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just holding on to all the information I'm collecting through the courts, all the evidence. So when that day comes, I have things I can present to my son, and so he can unequivocally know and have all the evidence he needs to be like, all right, dad, I was mad at you, but I see that you've just fought and fought and fought and like, yeah, man, I'm praying for you, brother. I really hope things start turning in your favor. So let me ask you this. On a big picture scale, I mean, and maybe I already asked you this, but what would you like your case to achieve? And then also, what would you like to see from single dads as a whole that are going through this? What would you like to see from the fathers in this community that are dealing with all this? What would you like to see more of? What do you
Those
think
are good,
what needs to be done? Excuse me, go on.
those are good questions. It's really hard because you have the alpha dominant males, and we're the ones that are going to fight when something happens. And when something happens, we're going to go answer the call.
Right.
So the people that don't do that, are riding the train and they don't understand. I, it's hard because we're all so dominant because we've had to be our whole life that it's so hard to get teamwork now
Yeah.
because everyone's so far removed from everybody. And I want the spider web to turn around. You get the judge in the middle, and then if you have all the dads on the outside, it's just like that shark picture. If all of us on the outside of the web, do the same thing like the shark picture, it's hard because everybody has an attitude and everyone's uptight about everything, and we're everybody wants to get their story out, and that's why I was kind of skeptical because I'm like, man, I'm just a story of like 50 million.
Are you talking about you're skeptical of coming on the show or just in general or
Yeah, both because, like you said, your story is so similar, and everybody's going through it, so it's really hard for other people to listen to other people's stories, right?
right.
So I get, and we're bombarded with stuff online with so many people talking and so many. I wish I could follow a quarter of the stuff that's on here, and I can't.
Right.
And it's so hard because like I try and tell people or expose people to the information that we know now. Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's just like yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. I'm like, but you want to see your kid, or why wouldn't you fight this hard? Or I wrote a 9-page motion for my buddy. He's a on the low end scale, and he wants to see his kids. I wrote him a 9-page motion. Didn't even want it. I'm
See
like,
that? Yeah, that's crazy, man, but I can relate to that so much. I mean, I will say this, like, I mean, we come across that issue all the time, but I'm seeing a light at the end of the tunnel because I mean, for me, I've got a pretty solid group of right around 10 people out here all around throughout the state of Washington I'm working with, and then I'm building with people like you and all these other individuals all over the country. And I think one of the important things we're going to have to do is, you're saying a few minutes ago, like people kind of struggle to sometimes work together, for a mission or whatever. And I think one of our biggest struggles is is because we got this group or this person over here doing this, and then this group or this person over here doing this, and it's slightly different. I think people are struggling to realize that even though they're trying to go about things differently, because they're doing it differently, they don't think they can work with like this person over here or that person over there. And I think that like that's where I'm kind of trying to come in, because I'm always hearing all these debates. Well, this approach doesn't work, or this tactic doesn't work, or that tactic doesn't work. But for me, I think we need to be hitting them at all fronts, the system and the family courts, through lawsuits, individual lawsuits, group lawsuits, what you're doing, push through legislation change. Like, I think we need to be hitting on all fronts. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build that network to where we can start kind of getting that machine going and moving forward. But yeah, man, because
Like
there's more numbers.
Robert Garza. Sorry, go ahead.
Uh-huh. No,
Like
go ahead.
Robert Garza's doing the legislative thing. Mark Ludwig's doing the legislative thing, and like and then Chris Griffin, he was trying to do the removal of the bar thing, which is I think is a phenomenal idea
Me too.
because because lawyers shouldn't be involved in every aspect of everything. But I know everyone's sue happy, and that's how they protect themselves.
We've been letting lawyers run the government, and I don't think that's turned out too well.
Oh, not at all. So I try and I commend those guys for doing what they're doing because they're doing way more than I am. But I'm almost kind of against it because I'm like, yeah, but isn't the federal law 50-50 no custody? So why are you trying to do legislative changes when legislation's through statutory process and not constitutional?
Right.
Like why are you going the unconstitutional route to prove constitutionality? Like that to me is berserk. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
people,
No, I get that. But like on the other side of that, like, because I actually agree with you 100%. I'm like, all this stuff is unconstitutional, it needs to be dealt with. But also, like, what some of these legislature people like Ludwig and stuff, where I think their tactic will come in handy is they are building relationships with certain people that do have a lot of influence and can help out in the long term. And so I'm like, well, okay, let me see what I can do with them. And then maybe I can get to, because like Ludwig, he just talked with Vivek Ramaswamy the other day. He's got a direct connection to the White House. And so I'm like, all right, let me see if there's some way I can utilize what I'm doing to connect him with that, to build with him, to maybe build a pathway to the White House, to where, because what I'd like to see, like what I want to do with Ludwig is I want to get a group of fathers and even some moms and just families in general, get a meeting set up in the White House to where, we can basically share our stories. I mean, I don't know if you remember a few years back when Trump had the meeting with the parents that were dealing with fentanyl, and and family members dying from illegal immigration, stuff like that. Like, I want to get something like that set up with the White House. And then it would be really helpful to like bring in dads like yourself into that meeting, so you could break down like, okay, here's the laws that are being violated. This is what's going on. And I feel like Trump and just what's going on right now in general, I think now's the time to try to figure out how to make this happen, because I think with everything Trump's been through with all the lawfare, I think he'll actually be very open to what we're trying to tell him. And I think we have something there that we could really help change this whole system. But yeah, no, I agree with you, man. I mean, it's what they're doing is totally illegal. I'm just trying to utilize every aspect I can. So, but
and networking is good. It's huge, and I look at some people. They have huge followings, and I'm like, man, I don't even know the people on my street.
right. I mean, we're just little babies right now. We just hit 52 subscribers yesterday, and we've only been up for a couple months now. But it feels good, because even though we don't have a bunch of followers yet, like, we're getting compliments from people and we're getting good feedback from people. So I'm like, all right, this isn't
Awesome.
big yet, but I'm going to keep grinding this out. It'll be a bit of a slow grind, but we're going to turn this into something real big. So yeah, I think people are hungry for it.
Yeah,
Man,
definitely.
yeah, yeah. Randall, man, I mean, do you mind? Are you able to drop the names of any of these judges and or attorneys or whoever? And can you kind of tell the people if you know like some of the connections between them and maybe how they're, working to colluding together, and maybe benefiting the way they're benefiting off of this or yeah, I don't know if that makes
Well,
sense.
yeah. So I have a lot of case law that I threw into this habeas and all the other ones that if it's not judicial, it's administrative,
Okay.
and how they don't have any, constitutional, provisions, and the American jurisprudence said they can't, do constitutional law, and all the case law says that none of these judges get immunity, um, and anybody that backs up a statue is only going on administrative duties, not judicial.
Yeah.
So in the circuit court in New Hampshire, Judge Gardner, James Carroll, they both retired. Those are my two judges. Ed Gordon, and apparently the administrative judge King, he was let go. I think last year there's been a huge turnout with um, Gail Drobard does the emails for the New Hampshire parenting stuff in the State House.
Okay.
The district court in New Hampshire was Chief Judge Landry McCafferty and Joseph LaPlante, as well as Andrea Johnston. So those are the three judges that granted Rooker Feldman against the Bear case. The five Supreme Court justices that denied my writ of centuri for criminal statutes in civil court was Judge McDonald, Hicks, Bassett, Marconi, and Donovan. The two North Carolina judges that decided to give arrest warrants for not paying lawyers' fees was Judge Anna Worley and Judge Brian Ratledge. The U.S. Court of Appeals that denied their own case law, as well as the Bear case, was Judge Monacovo, Judge Kayada, and Judge Reichelman. So 16 judges for administrative enforcement of statutes and not judicial. So, what's weird is Judge Gardner said in the 424 order that I kept saying that there was no threats or violence to support the order, but then he said that evidence didn't apply. So it's just like they just go around in this circle thing, and then he even said, so for 9 years I tried to do like overturn the parenting plan because I didn't really care about the protective order because I was like, listen,
Right.
if I really threatened you, then I wouldn't, whatever. So for 9 years, I tried getting rid of the parenting plan, and he wouldn't let me. Then I met that paralegal guy from Arizona, and I worked with him for the last 3.5 years. And I since got rid of him because he just
I
didn't
know
want
who
to
you're
play.
talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense that these guys are allowing it to happen, but obviously backdoor financials and retirement funds. So what I want to see happen is just people come together and but people are so afraid because their money's not worth anything, and they want to, you got to work 100 hours a week to, forever. I thought, oh, if I make 100 grand, I'll be comfortable. I made
Right.
96. I made 96, and I wasn't. I mean, I was financially comfortable, but I worked my ass off, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So um,
It is crazy what they've done to you, man, because I mean, you served our country. Thank you for your service. You're what's it called? You drive ambulances around, right?
yeah, I did that for 22 years.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, so you have what appears to be the model citizen, like, going on. And I mean, let me ask you this. did they ever like, so when this whole ordeal started with this claim, of domestic violence or against the mom or whatever, did she ever present any actual proof of anything, or has this just been hearsay from the beginning?
Oh, just hearsay. Like
Just hearsay. Okay.
the
So she's
the
never
five
provided any pics of like black eyes or anything like that. And I'm not trying to put you on blast for anything. I gotta ask these questions.
Of course, no, I wouldn't be here if I did. Like I totally like if I threw a broken fingernail at her or raised my voice, I would have never fought.
Yeah.
But for the last 3.5 years, I've been trying to get rid of the protective order because that, the narrative on parenting decree says that she gets sole custody because of the protective order. Well,
Right.
on the 424 order, the judge said that the parenting plan has nothing to do with the protective order. Really? So if we had a protective order, how would you share custody? You
Yeah.
idiot. Doesn't make any sense. So the
Right.
fact that he denied the motion to vacate the protective order when he said evidence didn't apply,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna keep continuing to contact baby mama to
Yeah.
let my son know that I never stopped fighting and I never stopped trying to talk to him, even though, you know, he's told me that he goes, Dad, you can't promise me anything, like on the phone. He's like, you can't tell me this. Why are you tell I'm like, how do you know I can't promise you anything?
Yeah.
How would a 4-year-old kid know that?
Yeah, he's being fed that, obviously. I
I
mean, yeah,
have I
crazy.
have it in the court order. The judge said I cannot promise my kid anything.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. The stuff they will put in court orders is just absolutely insane. Yeah. 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 It's, man. And it's sad for your son because, especially right now, he's 12, right? Am I correct
Yeah.
in saying that? I mean, so, he's about to be a teenager. And obviously, when you're a teenager, you start changing, you start becoming an adult, and so your emotions are just even more. And so he just, man, just dude, I'm sorry, but just stick with it because I do think, it sucks for you, it sucks for him, but I do think if you keep doing what you're doing, there is going to be a time here sooner than later to where he really steps back and starts evaluating the situation. And eventually, if he does, his mom's going to end up destroying her relationship with him. I mean, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it happen. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
know
I
that
mean,
doesn't make you feel better, but yeah,
yeah, like I said, the only thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show him the paperwork that said evidence didn't apply to the criminal statutes in family court, and that she was in fear for 12 years without a direct. So Watts versus United States says it has to be violent and it has to be credible.
yeah,
Well, if its rules of evidence don't apply, that means the information is unreliable. So how can an unreliable statement be credible?
right,
Like there's too many oxymoronic statements in his washing machine testimony and his orders that like at some point something's going to break, and I just want to be able to show him that I got 6 years for our good relationship, and I got 5 years away from him for a Christmas gift.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
how are you going to be able? How are you going to be able to defend that?
Yeah. No, she won't be able to defend that. And again, she's going to inevitably destroy her own relationship with her son. And it's that, it's sad, but it is what it is. So, man, Randall, I'm telling you, man, I need to connect you with my boy Kyle, dude. You guys are both brilliant with the laws, and I think you guys really need to start chatting. He's got some huge stuff. He's had some big victories out here, and he's been shaking up the system like you are. The courts know him quite well, and yeah, he's been dealing with the tribal courts out here and the regular Washington courts. So yeah, but
Amazing. Yeah, man, hook me up with him. I'll talk to him.
yeah, yeah. Well, all right, man. Is there anything else you want to tell the people before we end this interview? Like, do you want to let out your social media where people can find you? If not, no big deal. You don't have to do that. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook. It's kind of like what I use. I just wish that we could all just. I mean, what we really need to do is just take over a courthouse. No, obviously not physically or violently, but with a show of bodies and be like, listen, like this has to stop, and let people know that the Constitution was there for a reason. And when you go into these courts, see, that's the problem. Like, I took civil and criminal law in school, and I kind of remember a lot of it, but the point is, a summons to appear or a notice to appear, it doesn't matter. You're going to appear, right? Because that's what you were taught.
Right.
Well, a summons to appear means you actually did something wrong and the state wants you. You have to go.
Yeah.
But nobody knows that a notice to appear is voluntary. And if it's about court, of course you want to go for your kid. We just have to get rid of the brainwash and be like, no, you don't have to go there. Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
oh,
No, I love it, man. I love it. I'm gonna definitely reach out to you. I want us to start doing some work together, man. I've got some ideas I'm gonna pitch your way that are already in motion with other people that I'm working with. And hopefully we can figure out a way to do some work together because, like I said, my goal is to bring everyone together, even if people are slightly working on different things, because there's a bunch of dads like you that are doing very similar things in the courts. And if we could start bringing those type of dads together to create one large case, go after all 50 states, and I believe it's 100% possible, I think we could change the system a whole lot faster. But Randall, it's been amazing, dude, having you on the show, brother. Yes, it is. It's been fantastic, man. And let's definitely we'll get you back on sometime. And yeah, man, you keep pushing forward, dude. You're an inspiration to the dads out there, and God bless you, brother. We appreciate you.
Full speed ahead.
All right, full speed ahead, man. You have a good one. We'll chat soon.
All right, brother. Be good.
You too.
Here comes Max. Whoa, yeah. Was that fun?
God, I'm an art to my very last breath. Bless my son, my love never ends. Max.